And just like that, NFL Super Wildcard Weekend has come to an end, and I am here to break down and recap every single game for you guys. My predictions did not go so hot. Leave in the comments if any of these games went a different way than you expected, but let's go ahead and hop into these games and, start reviewing what went on in each game. We'll start off with Chargers-Texans, which was actually a very surprising game for, I think, a lot of people. In my prediction video, I said a lot of people were counting the Texans out, which kind of surprised me, but I also did pick the Chargers and did think they were going to win this game, and I would say most NFL fans thought the Chargers were going to take this game with the way the Texans had been playing leading up to the wild card round. However, CJ Stroud did not play a terrible game. CJ Stroud actually had a pretty decent game. He went 22 for 33, 280 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Justin Herbert, on the other hand, had a pretty damn good regular season, only threw 3 interceptions on the entire regular season through 17 games, and threw 4 in this game here against the Texans. He went 14 of 32, below 50%, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, which was like a 90-yard touchdown to Ladd McConkey. So if you take away, obviously, it did happen, so this is weird to say, but if you take away that one play to Ladd McConkey, Justin Herbert's stat line would be 150 yards, 4 touchdowns, 13 of 31. Like, that's just not what we expect out of Herbert, which maybe we should have. He still has yet to have a playoff win. He now has 2 playoff games under his belt. One of them, he choked a 27-0 lead against the Jaguars, and then here put up a pitiful performance against this Texans defense. Derek Stingley played very good football. He was an all-pro for a reason, and he's really starting to shine. Joe Mixon did decent this game. They gave him a lot of carries. He averaged a little over 4 yards per carry, but watching this game, it didn't really feel like Joe Mixon was doing much. He did get in the end zone, though. It really didn't seem like the Chargers were able to get the run game going, especially towards the second half, because they were just down so much that they really had to get away from the run game. J.K. Dobbins averaged less than 3 yards per carry, didn't even get 30 yards. Gus Edwards averaged 3 yards a carry, also didn't eclipse 30 yards. Rushing yards, they barely had more than 50 total rushing yards on the game, and you're just never going to win a football game like that, especially when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions. Shout out Ladd McConkey, though. 9 receptions for 197 yards and a touchdown. Outside of that, literally nobody did anything. Will Dissly, 2 catches for 16 yards. Tucker Fisk, 1 catch for 15 yards. DJ Chark, a catch for 10 yards. And Darius Davis, a catch for 4 yards. That is 45 total yards that came from every other receiver other than Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey put the team on his back. Unfortunately, it still was not enough. The Chargers got 3 sacks on the game. Khalil Mack had a good game. Joey Bosa did decent, but the defense just did not play the way it needs to, and especially with how bad CJ Stroud has looked these past couple weeks, I think the Chargers defense could have done a better job. The Chargers offense could have done a better job, and we're kind of entering this place where does Justin Herbert get a question mark now, because he is normally mentioned with the top-tier quarterbacks. Obviously, he's not Lamar Jackson, he's not Joe Burrow, he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Josh Allen, but I would say he's right below that tier of quarterbacks I just listed, and I think a lot of people would agree, but now he has 2 playoff performances. A lot of people put the blame on Brandon Staley last time. Are you going to put the blame on Jim Harbaugh? Obviously, he deserves a little bit, but how much of it falls on Justin Herbert, and is this going to be a pattern that continues in the future? Moving on to Steelers-Ravens, I think this game went pretty much the way everybody would expect it. Lamar and Derrick Henry balled out in this game, made this Steelers defense look completely different than it did throughout the year. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 21, 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry got 26 carries, 186 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the day. Derrick Henry was going absolutely crazy. Russell Wilson, honestly, not a terrible performance. Obviously, the first half, he could have done a lot better. But in the second half, I think he played some good football. This Steelers team is really hitting an interesting spot, especially Mike Tomlin. He's, 0-6 in his last playoff games. I don't completely fact-check me on that, but I think it's something. I don't think he's won a playoff game since 2016. So is it that big of a deal if you keep getting winning seasons, if you're just going to lose in the first round of the playoffs every time? They were not able to run the ball this game. Najee Harris had 6 carries for 17 yards. Jaylen Warren had 2 carries for 6 yards. By the way, Jaylen Warren has been outperforming Najee Harris these last few weeks. The fact that Najee Harris is getting 3 times the amount of carries as Jaylen Warren, especially early in the game, you should be feeding the hot hand, in my opinion. George Pickens had a decent game. I think he could have showed up more for the team. 5 catches, 87 yards, and that 1 touchdown on the whole shot, which was a great throw by Russell Wilson. But the whole Steelers team just did not play good this game. You can't put 14 points up in a wildcard game and expect to win, especially against a team like the Ravens, who I do have winning the Super Bowl this year. Hopefully ends up being the case, but this is a very good performance from them, and I hope we see more to come. Moving on to Buffalo Bills versus the Denver Broncos, another game that I would say went pretty much exactly how everybody expected it. The Broncos honestly opened this game hot. They got off early to a 7-0 lead with a very beautiful passing touchdown from Bo Nix, but after that, it was all Buffalo. Josh Allen with a fantastic game, 20 of 26, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. James Cook also had a very good game when I don't think many people expected that to be the case. 23 carries for 120 yards and a touchdown. Absolutely beautiful. Josh Allen also rushed for almost 50 yards. Ty Johnson rushed for almost 50 yards. Also, that passing touchdown to Ty Johnson might have been one of the best plays I have seen in football in a long time, especially in a playoff game. That was an insane catch from a running back. Absolutely beautiful. And shout out to Curtis Samuel. He really stepped up big time in this game. I think a lot of people would have expected it to be Amari Cooper, Keon Coleman, maybe even Dalton Kincaid, but no, it was Curtis Samuel who stepped up big time and had a great game. There's not much to recap for this game. I think it pretty much went exactly how everybody expected. Bo Nix didn't have a terrible game, but he only had 22 passing attempts in a game that they were down the whole time. I don't really know how to feel about that. I think the play calling on the Broncos' end could have been better. And I mean, you got a fake punt, which was so awesome, and then they ended up punting on the same drive. Like, you thought you were going to take a drive, you were going to take a possession away, and you just punted it again. They couldn't get the run game going either. Bo Nix was their leading rusher with 43 yards. Javonte Williams, since that injury a few years back, has just never really caught his stride in the NFL, which really is sad to see. But I do think that the Broncos have a bright future. I think they need to add to this running back group, get a little bit more depth at receiver. But I think Courtland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, they are all great players. And honestly, this was a very impressive season from the Broncos. I'm not going to take anything away from it because they lost to a Buffalo Bills team that was 13-4. So shout out to the Broncos. They had a great season, but you're just not going to beat a team like the Bills in the playoffs here. Next up, we have Packers-Eagles, which if you saw my prediction video, I did take the Packers to win this game, and then they came out and absolutely shit the bed. The defense actually played great. They allowed 10 points in the first quarter, didn't allow a single point in the second quarter, but the Packers went the whole first half without scoring a point. Jordan Love, with not the best stat line, went 20 of 33 for 212 yards and 3 interceptions. Not really what I expected out of Jordan Love. One of those picks wasn't terrible. The other two were absolutely pitiful. One of them was in garbage time when you're trying to chase points, which you can't take away the interception. But that one interception to the linebacker was one of the worst throws I've ever seen. That was absolutely just terrible. Josh Jacobs did have a great game. He got 81 yards on the ground and a touchdown. He also had 40 yards through the air. Josh Jacobs is the focus point of the offense. I think next season, if the Packers can add to this receiving group and get more weapons for Jordan Love to work with, it will help out. Jaden Reed played great, but then he got injured, and at that point, all three of the Packers receivers were down because Romeo Doubs also went down with an injury. So Jordan Love didn't have much to work with, but he definitely could have done better anyways. And then Jalen Hurts honestly played a pretty good game. He only had to throw the ball 21 times, only threw for 130 yards, but he did have 2 passing touchdowns. Saquon Barkley with 25 carries for 120 yards, which could have been even more, and he could have had a touchdown at the end of the game there, but he's just so classy that he just went down after the first down. Shout out my boy Saquon. They honestly, the scoreboard, it's only a 12-point win, which is 2 possessions, but I just think the Eagles dominated this game way more than the scoreboard shows, in my opinion. And honestly, this game just from the beginning was not close. Jordan Love, the lights were too bright for him. There wasn't much for him to work with. Also, that fumble at the beginning of the game that the Eagles recovered on the opening kickoff, I personally do not think that should have been the Eagles' ball. I haven't really looked back at it since the actual game itself, so maybe looking back at it, it really should have been the Eagles' ball, but it really did look like the Packers came away with it there, so I think the Eagles got blessed a free possession to start off the game. However, when you play this pitiful, you don't get excuses, and the Packers deserve to lose this game. Quick little break in the video, just to let you guys know, this is my first time doing a video like this, so if it's a little weird and I seem a little uncomfortable, it's because I am. I'm trying my best here. The more I do this, the better it'll get, but just bear with me. Moving on to Commanders-Buccaneers, which was a fantastic game. In my playoff predictions, I said that I had previously picked the Commanders and that I had doubted Baker Mayfield too many times and that I've been proved wrong one too many times, so I was going to stick with Baker Mayfield, and he shit the bed. Now, I'm not going to put this loss on Baker. I know I said that, but Baker did honestly have a pretty good game. He only threw the ball 18 times. I want to say the Commanders dominated in time of possession. Let me take a look at this real quick. The Commanders had 10 more minutes in time of possession in this game, so with a high-powered offense like the Buccaneers and a not very good defense, it really does seem like whoever dominates the time of possession will take the game. And Baker Mayfield did have that one fumble, which really did set the Buccaneers back in this game. And that game-sealing of first down conversion that led to the game-winning field goal by Jaden Daniels really should have been a sack. There were a lot of plays that the Bucs could have made to win this game, and they just kept shooting themselves in the foot over and over again. Mike Evans had a great game going against Marshawn Lattimore, who previously, while he was on the Saints, would tend to kind of quiet down Mike Evans. But he had a great game, 7 receptions for 92 yards and a touchdown. Bucky Irving had a pretty good game, 17 carries, 77 yards. But I think they could have involved Bucky a little bit more. Obviously, Baker didn't throw the ball as much as I want him to, but I think if Bucky Irving could have gotten going more, they could have been dominating time of possession. And if Bucky Irving gets 20 carries instead of 17, he gets, an extra, 15 yards, and maybe Baker doesn't fumble on that play. I don't remember what down it was on, so maybe I'm being an idiot, but I don't know. I just think the Buccaneers were shooting themselves in the foot this game, but that doesn't mean we can take away from what the Commanders did. Jaden Daniels had a very, very good game, 24 of 35, 268 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I want to say he now has 2 or 3 games where his team has not punted the ball or turned the ball over. However, I keep hearing people talk about that. Let's not forget they went for it on 4th down twice and didn't convert it. That should basically count as a turnover. I'm sorry. But in a game where the Commanders really couldn't get going on the ground, Jaden Daniels was their leading rusher with 36 yards. Austin Eckler got 27. Brian Robinson with 10 carries for 16 yards. By the way, screw Brian Robinson. He lost me my fantasy Super Bowl, and in the last few weeks of the season has not been looking good, so screw Brian Robinson. But in a game where they couldn't get the ground game going, they did just enough to get the win. De'Ami Brown came out of nowhere and had a great game. Terry McLaurin, we all knew he was great. He had a fantastic game, but shout out to De'Ami Brown. Fuck Zach Ertz because he was 7 yards away from winning me $140, but great game by the Commanders here. I'm happy to see them win, but I'm a little bit sad to see Baker out of the playoffs. I would love to see Washington go into Detroit and upset the number 1 seed. Nothing would make me happier. But I don't really know what team I'm rooting for, which we will get into once we get into this last game here. And getting into the final game, Vikings at Rams. If you can't tell by the jersey, I'm a Vikings fan. If you didn't see the last video, I actually had the Vikings making the Super Bowl, which I did admit in that video with a little bit of bias, but the really only biased pick I had was us beating the Lions in the NFC Championship. I did think we could win this game, but we played just as shitty as we did against Detroit. That's 2 weeks in a row where Sam Darnold, hey, you had a massive contract lockdown, and then in 2 weeks when the lights were too bright, you showed that you're really not that guy. Sam Darnold went 25 of 40 for 245 yards, a touchdown and an interception, which on paper does not look terrible. However, Sam Darnold was sacked 9 times. Now, a lot of people want to put that on the offensive line. Obviously, a little bit of it should go on the offensive line, and Brian O'Neill did get injured late in the game. However, if you were watching this game, you know that the reason he was sacked 9 times is because he was holding on to the ball too long. What I told people during this game is that it felt like I was watching a Chicago Bears game. Caleb Williams was managing our offense that game, not Sam Darnold. Actually, no, Sam Darnold was managing that game. The Sam Darnold that we saw in New York. Sam Darnold, that was a pitiful performance. You fumbled the ball and let them take it to the crib. You threw an interception, which I want to say his hand hit our tackle's helmet or something, but regardless, he threw that ball way too late and it would have been picked off anyways. This game was absolutely pitiful. We put up 3 points in the first half. We went into halftime down 24-3 and then scored 1 touchdown in the second half. We've scored 1 touchdown in the last 2 weeks in games that mattered the most. This was actually disgusting. I will say that one play where Matt Stafford is getting sacked and he kind of flicked the ball downward as an incompletion. Maybe I'm a casual. I feel like that's a fumble. How can your arm be going forward when it's upside down, flicking to the ground? I don't know. That should have been a fumble 6, but regardless, we would have lost this game anyway. Really get the run game going. I mean, Aaron Jones had 50 rushing yards. Cam Akers, by the way, I am a huge Aaron Jones fan. If you can't tell by the jersey, he's one of my favorite players in the league. But these last couple weeks, Cam Akers has been running the ball very efficiently and I would say better than Aaron Jones. The fact that Aaron Jones is getting almost 3 times the amount of carries as Cam Akers this game, I think is a bad move because Cam Akers averaged almost 8 yards a carry this game. Another game where Justin Jefferson really didn't show up. Again, it's hard to show up when your quarterback's getting sacked 9 times. You know what? Let's do a little Google here. Okay, this is not what I was going to Google, but we lost 82 yards to sacks this game. 82 yards. He got sacked 9 times. He averaged 9 yards lost per sack. There was a drive where it was 3rd down, and we were basically in field goal range. Sam Darnold holds onto the ball, runs backwards 10 yards to get us out of field goal range, and then when he sees the pressure coming at him, doesn't even try to get rid of the ball and hits the ground. So now we can't go for it on 4th down. We can't kick a field goal. We have to punt the ball while we're down multiple possessions. And you'll never guess what I just read. The most sacks by a team in an NFL playoff game is 9. And how many times was Sam Darnold sacked this game? Oh yeah, 9. The Titans did it against Joe Burrow, the Chiefs did it against Lynn Dawson, and the Browns did it against Warren Moon. So a bunch of that was from, fucking forever ago. In recent history, it's only happened to Joe Burrow and Sam Darnold. And Joe Burrow, you know, those years had the shittiest offensive line. You know, you just can't deny it. And also, the Bengals won that game. How? Sam Darnold, you are dog shit. If we do not move on to J.J. McCarthy next year and we pay Sam Darnold, I am going to be pissed off. I was kind of in the boat where maybe we tag him and give him another year. If we do that, I will be so heated. Tag him and trade him for all I care. Get Sam Darnold off of this fucking team. J.J. McCarthy is going to come in and be a god, and I can't watch Sam Darnold anymore. I can't do it. Every game we lost this year was on him. The first time we lost to the Rams, he played like shit. You know what? The first loss to the Lions, Sam Darnold had a good game, but guess what he did? He threw an interception. He didn't convert on the 2-point conversion, and whenever we needed him most, he didn't come through. And that's the story of Sam Darnold. He had a great season this year. I am happy for him that he won 14 games after everybody wrote him off, but in the 2 most important games of the season, one of them for the 1 seed. We had the 1 seed at one point, technically, because we had played the game before the Lions played the 49ers. So we went from having the 1 seed to going to the 5 seed to being eliminated in the wild card round while only scoring 1 touchdown in those 2 weeks in that short of a time frame, all because of Sam fucking Darnold. That game against the Lions was Sam Darnold. He overthrew. We had so many opportunities. We had 2 interceptions. We had multiple red zone drives where Sam Darnold shit the bed, and he did the same thing this game. I don't care what you want to put on the offensive line. This game was on Sam Darnold. Now let's get into what the Rams did good, because I'm done shitting on the Vikings. Matt Stafford had a great game, 19 for 27, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams was effective running the ball at 76 yards on the ground. Tyler Higbee was playing a great game. He was their leading receiver, and I think he got injured in like the first half. We shut down Puka Nacua for the most part. He had 5 catches for 44 yards. Cooper Kupp only got 1 catch. Like, our defense was not playing terrible. We held them to what? Okay, in the first half, we played pretty terrible. We allowed 24 points in the first half. We only allowed 3 points in the second half. The same amount we scored in the first half. So if we just did anything on offense, this could have been a game. There were so many times I was watching this game where I was like, you know, if we do this and we do this, like, this could be a game. And then every time I said that in my head, I look up and Sam Darnold's taking a fucking sack. Like, I don't know what team I'm going to be rooting for in the playoffs, but I don't know how much longer I can be a fan of this team. We made it to the wild card round 13-4 a couple years ago with Kirk Cousins and lost to Daniel Jones and the Giants, who is now a backup on our team. He was the 3rd string emergency quarterback, and that is the guy we lost in the playoffs a couple years ago. And this year we're losing to the Rams as a 14-3 team. That shit is pitiful. There's no excuse, and I hate this team with a passion. Really needed to get that out of my system, but anyways, that's going to be all for this wild card round recap. If you tuned in, thank you very much. I'm going to keep doing these videos throughout the playoffs, and I'm going to try to make them better and better, and this really is the style of content that I want to try to get more into. You know, as I grow this channel, it was originally only Madden, but I really do just love the NFL, and it was really why I liked playing Madden franchise. I didn't even really like the game. So if I could really, you know, bring this channel to be more real-life NFL content, that would make me really happy. And I hope you guys enjoy this video, and they're going to keep getting better and better. I know this probably wasn't the best video because I'm not that locked in. I didn't do much preparation. I'm going to do more preparation next time. And stay tuned for my divisional round predictions. But that's going to be all for this video. Thank you for tuning in. I love each and every one of you. Make sure you are subscribed and stay tuned for more content like this because I'm actually enjoying it, even though I was crashing out there for a little bit. I love you. Subscribe. Deuces.